Guys, I'll be honest. I'm really excited right now because I think I might have found the most mysterious country in the world. It's so mysterious and controversial, almost no one ever visits it. But even if it's only visited by 9,000 people a year, which is insanely little, without a doubt, it remains one of the most interesting countries in the world. See this? It's the gates of hell! 100% real! There's no other place on earth where you can find something like this. It's a hole in the ground about the size of an American football field, 98 foot deep, but it's burning for the past 50 years. And the reason why it can't stop burning, no one really knows why. There have been some theories, but they've never been answered. Unless the government is hiding something, but more on that later. And see this? It's the country's capital city, a city holding so many world records, yet it's like a ghost town. Where are all the people? We're also talking about one of the richest countries in natural resources, yet many of its people don't really live the best lives. Their capital city was actually named the most expensive city in the world to live in for workers. So now that I got your attention, let me just tell you that I'm literally only warming up. There's like a gazillion more things about this country, so let's talk about Turkmenistan. And how it became one of the least visited places in the world while being one of the most interesting. Why it has the strangest places on earth, and why, despite being one of the world's biggest suppliers of natural resources, its people remain poor. Let's start from the gates of hell. More than 5 decades ago, in the Karakum desert of northern Turkmenistan, a group of Soviet scientists arrived in search of oil. That's when they thought, hey, this is a nice crater, how about we drill it? But when they began to drill, the crater collapsed and it started to emit dangerous gases. So they stopped. And then they had a genius idea. How about we burn it so it stops emitting the gases? And that's how the gates of hell were created. A supposed week-long fire turned into a 5-decade-long inferno that no one has any clue why it burns so long or when it will stop. For the lucky ones that somehow managed to get into this country, like my friend Drew Binsky,
I can say that I've been to every single country in the world.
The gates of hell have become a tourist attraction. But last year, their former president decided that the gates of hell are somehow dangerous, so they have to close them. First of all, it's dangerous to the environment. Then it's been badly affecting the health of people living nearby. And finally, it's a waste of gas, the money. And I guess the third one is probably the actual reason why they care. Who the hell knows how they will close this crater? But speaking of hell, we need to talk about the people who live in Turkmenistan. There are over 6 million people living here, and as strange as the existence of the gates of hell, Turkmens live with strange laws you could never imagine exist in our world. Like, you see this book here? This book is called Runama, also known as the Book of Soul for the people living in Turkmenistan. And they have to follow it kind of like a Bible. But the thing is, this book was written by the former president / dictator himself. And to make sure every citizen is reminded of it, he even ordered to build a 20-foot tall statue of it in its capital city, Ashgabat. If you're a local and you need to apply for a job, your exams and interviews will contain questions about the Runama. Even the country's driving test contains questions about the book. Okay, I think you're starting to realize why I say that this is one of the most unique and mysterious countries in the world. But what makes it even more unique is the things they decide to ban. Like, it's super random. Black cars are banned. Video games were once banned, as well as circuses. Ballet, opera, long hair on men and facial hair is banned. In the capital city, dogs were banned because the president doesn't like how they smell. And get this, even lip-syncing at concerts was banned for the singers. That's like half of today's pop stars' careers. will be over. Oh, and they also banned the free press, and they have one of the most expensive internet in the world, so it's kind of banned for poorer people because they can't afford it. Oh, and also it's the world's slowest internet. Like, this country has world records in so many random things. And at some point, all the hospitals outside Ashgabat were locked up. So even the people who lived very far had to travel to the capital city if they were sick. Just imagine, at that time more than 3 million people were living outside in the rural areas. So now the question is, why do people living in this country have to go through all these bizarre rules? And even though the country is so interesting, almost no people visit it. Well, the country is rich in gas, right? If there's one thing the gates of hell have proven to us, is that they have a lot of it. Like, billions a lot. They have the 4th largest natural gas reserves in the world. It's on par with countries like Russia and Qatar. Maybe even more, because Russia's gas reserves are expected to last over 50 years, Qatar 140 years, but Turkmenistan has gas reserves that will last for the next 300 years or so. They're super rich. And it is because of this that Turkmenistan wanted to attract foreign investors. And so that's why they transformed its capital city, Ashgabat, from an underdeveloped village to this. A city full of buildings made of white marble costing between $200,000 to $500,000 each, like $500,000 for each marble, which literally gave them the Guinness World Record for this. This Olympic complex cost $5 billion, for example. I mean, that's crazy. And I know it all sounds cool and stuff, but the average local lives for less than $300 a month. In this rich country, an average person is poorer than the average citizen of most places in the world. And that's also why Ashgabat always looks empty, like no one can afford living here. Just like with North Korea's organized and controlled trips, Ashgabat became a show city, a showcase for foreign investors and a few tourists. And so if anything, it's a massive show of lack of care for the actual people who live in the country. Like, they care so little about the locals that even though they have water scarcity outside of the city, in Ashgabat they built more than 1,000 fountains. And when we put all of these crazy things together, that is why Ashgabat, being so interesting, still remains one of the least visited places in the world. It's very tough to get in, and it costs money for the visa. Plus, people who visit the place say,
I could walk around more freely than in North Korea, but it was very apparent I was being watched.
That's why Turkmenistan has very few visitors, and for those who manage to get in, just like in North Korea, they'll be under strict control and supervision by the government. So why is Turkmenistan so weird? They have so much money and they're so unique as a tourist destination. They could be thriving. Well, as usual, it all boils down to its government, which can do whatever they want with its power and money. The country had leaders who belonged to history's craziest dictatorships. Think North Korea's Kim Jong-un or Russia's Putin type of people. But Turkmenistan had Supermarud Niyazov and Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov. Both of them ruled for over 30 long years. These two people really cared about themselves and what they liked. Niyazov, who declared himself president for life, was the one who wrote the Runama and forced his people to live by this Bible. He had thousands of statues and portraits built and printed in his honor, you know, to make sure that no one ever forgets his power. He even renamed the month of January after himself and the month of April after his mother. How crazy is that? And remember all these random things banned in the country? Well, he's the guy behind it. Like, he's the guy who once banned dogs in the capital city because he didn't like how dogs smell. Now, it was also a common tradition for the locals to wear golden teeth as a sign of status. But he also banned gold teeth, and then you'll never guess what he said to his people. To chew on chicken bones instead, so they make their teeth stronger. Like, he was so random. And the guy after him, Berdimuhamedov, who also had a nickname for himself, the protector. He was even more bizarre. He was the guy who banned black cars and allowed people to drive only white because he believed that white cars bring good luck. And aside from, of course, creating a golden statue of himself, he loved doing the most random stuff. From driving military cars around, to piloting a fighter plane, to DJing, to even rapping. He's like a cool uncle, right? And when in 2019 there were rumors that he might be dead, to prove that he's very much alive, he did this. That is him in his race car around the gates of hell, showing that he didn't die. So yeah, now you know why Turkmenistan is so mysterious and weird. Despite living in a country that has so much gas that they could last hundreds of years and could bring a lot of money to feed its people, it still is a country that's isolated, has weird rules, and honestly, because it's so hidden, no one knows how its people really live. Last year they got a new president, the son of the former president, who I really hope will use the amazing amount of money they have for the locals to make their lives better, and at the same time also become more accessible for the tourists, because here's the tiny secret. Please subscribe to Project Nightfall, because we plan to go to Turkmenistan. If the rules change and it's more accessible, I would love to go there and show you the next phase with the new president, how the people really live there. Undeniably, Turkmenistan is one of the most unique places in the world, and it's a big reminder that no matter how much potential a country can have, it is their leaders who will mostly decide if that potential is used making the country amazing to live in, or selfishly focusing on themselves. This is a special shout out to Mildred Bartels, Kerry Polisi, Kinga Gojowy, Halima Kabira and Carmina Radler for buying at our humanitarian store, honesty.global. Thank you so much.